Hmm. And greetings, everyone. I'm supposed to have stepped that. And welcome to Tuesday. What's left of the second day of the work week for those of us who work under that schedule. I hope you've had a good start to the week. I hope you have energy for the rest of it. And yes, I was not here this morning. Um, I thought I had explained what was going to happen. Turns out that with my new slider, I actually hit a button and sent us a rating before I was done talking. So, so yes, this morning I had blood tests. So I was not here. And I will be doing read and corrects. Um, Blood for the blood god. Well, it's more blood to make sure that the death god doesn't get to me. I'm old, so gotta gotta stay on my toe to not have that thing bug me too much. Alrighty, so yes, this afternoon is going to be read and corrects. Um, for those who may be new to that or who didn't know to expect that today, these are when I read chapters from my books and correct them as I go. Because I record these, I will ignore the chat while I am doing this, and so whatever said will be addressed after the fact. And to ensure things move along nicely, I will start now by confirming my microphone is on, turning off desktop audio. I will confirm I am on the correct screen. I have the correct image up. I am checking a detail. Okay. Starting the recording, and I'll see you all on the other side. Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my books and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 35 of The Technician's Fight. Jeremy kneed the woman who had stabbed him, then punched her in the face. He berated himself as she fell. He had claws. He should have gone for the throat. She didn't get up, so he allowed himself to look around. All right, the Special Ops Beta said in Earther, covering the people seated at the station. At the station. At the controls. At the controls. Now that the 5 guards were dead or subdued. Regardless of what you've been told about us, we are not monsters. You don't cause us trouble. We don't feel like compelled to claw you open. Please leave your post and go through that door. She motioned to the one close near, and someone from the other pack stood on each side of, and the operators did as instructed. It would be a room without exit, and someone would have made sure the systems there weren't working. Someone might have asked him to deal with it, since it was Earth or Tech, if he hadn't been fighting. But ripping out wires and boards didn't require specialized skill. Yakira, find us where the prisoners have been taken, the Beta instructed, while Skaram stepped up to Jeremy, taking out her medical pack. My mistake, he told Thur, as his Beta joined them, was that I let my anger cloud my judgment. Evaluating mistake is for training and after a hunt report. How is he? Skaram looked at checked her medical scanner. Nothing vital pierced or cut. Molecular blade, so it's good you brought her down so quickly. Moving with that in you would have opened you up. If she'd angled it correctly, the station's gravity would have pulled it down and caused the same. She sprayed a gel around the blade before pulling the knife out. Blood followed, but as soon as it came in contact with the gel, it foamed and expanded. Jimmy winced as the pressure turned painful, but happy not to be bleeding out. Combat readiness? Isbedo asked. The gel would expand within the wound and seal any nicks that could be a problem, something for the pain, and so long as he ends up in medical within 28 hours, he'll be fine. I'm realizing I actually forgot to establish him being in medical. I can do it between chapters, but I outright forgot. If we're back on the Bane, before that, someone said, I'm going to lodge a complaint. To whom? Someone else asked. The gods. Who else? I certainly haven't pissed off any of them to the point where they'd see to it I endured these narrow hallways for a day. Have you? A bunch of negative and a variety of colorful language. Then I'm going to demand to know what they're doing letting me suffer like that. I want to be present when you do that. I want to see what they do to you for that level of presumption. An injunction, and the pain became a background sensation. Do what you can not to stress the wounds, Karam said. Why, yes, Jeremy replied. I'm sure Arbedo will tell me to stay out of every coming fight. Since I don't want your heart pissed at me, Thur said, I just might. We even think of doing that, Jeremy replied, and I'll be pissed at you. Scaram patted their Bedo's shoulder. I'll share your bed if he gets over his until he gets over his anger. You're not supposed to side with him, Jimmy complained. He has rank, and we don't. Tell me that overshadows his skill in bed, she replied, and Jimmy found himself without an argument to counter with. And here I thought, the Special Ops Beta said, grinning, that you kept your pact all business-like during hunts. Could it be that you have more of your namesake's attitude than you like to claim? My namesake doesn't define me, Thur replied, annoyed, and this was a stress relief while in the securest location. She patted his cheek. You should let him, then. According to the stories, the Father God knows how to have fun. Jeremy snorted. Thur knows how to have fun. You can trust us on that. Before you ask him for a demonstration, Hunter Yerika Yakaderimi Osh Teriptar said, I might have something. A wireframe representation of the station appeared in the center of the command center. Whoa. In the middle. In the middle of the command center. Dot littered it, most in groups at intersection, surrounding where their last battle had been before they. Lit dot. Okay. You know what? I don't need the lit dots. Dots littered it, most in groups at intersections where their last battle had been before they'd taken the less direct but more discreet route here. Jimmy's attention was drawn to one section of the station by the complete absence of light. Even the wireframe was dark. What's that? Beta asked, motioning to the dark area. That's the something in question. The hunter answered, I can't tell you what it is. There is nothing in the system on it. What I can tell you is based on what's around. If it's the same layout as the level above and below, that covers 6 large rooms. Around it are 3 medical center, 2 greenhouses, a small meat growing production, and 3 research center. Haven't dug deep enough for information on what they research. Eyes turn to Jeremy. I don't know, but with them being close to medical, it's got to be biologically related. Uh, mm, Related to biology. I also don't know how about growing meats and vegetables there. Might be a market in them. Maybe not all earthers are like printed meat. Growing tastes no better, someone said. It gets its flavor from the hunt. The white dots are all station personnel. The hunter continued in a tone of, how about we stick to work? Opposition would be in red. Why are we still there then? The pointing to the red dots in the center of the white group. That's my doing. A hunter from Special Ops said he had something technological covering half his head, including an ear and eye. He had multiple tablets attached to an arm and was typing on them. The old got me the sensor field frequency once we were on board, and I bounced into it, figuring out how it worked, and spoke to the other systems. When we opened up the passage, I started having it tell everyone we were heading in a different direction. Made sure not to cross with any of the cross them with people, and they've been shadowing those. Why aren't they just attacking? Someone asked. They don't have to hurry, do they? Someone answered, so long as they prevent us from heading back to the shuttle, they can take as long as they want. And considering what we did to the last pack we encountered, the rest might not be the ones who want to take us on. Poof. I prefer to let someone else take us on. How sure can you be the prisoners are there? The beta asked. Can't be certain, the hunter answered, but short of them being dead, they'd show up on sensor if they were anywhere else. How accurate is the data? Thur asked, studying the projection. I'm not changing anything other than our location, the male said. Everything else is real time, the hunter at the board said. Added. They're going to know the information this provides. They're going to know this information provide them is wrong the instant we have to fight one of the packs patrolling those corridors. He indicated the moving dots around the black area. Do you have enough information to give us a path that limits the chances we'll cross them? I'm going to need a lot more time. A lot more time to get this to tell me anything in its past. It doesn't like giving up anything. Yeah. It doesn't like talking to me. I only work with the information I gained since Yold gave me access, the male said, and I haven't been here. We haven't been here that long. We removed the sensors, the special op beta said, and they don't have a way to work out where we are. Thanks for the lack of confidence, Beta, the male said without anger. But it tells them where we are. Third countered. Where we were, the Beta said. I'm not saying we blind them now. My hunters can make that happen once we've left. Oh, that's something else I need to account for. I take it back, the male said. You do have confidence in me. Jimmy agreed with Thurb more as he listened to the special ops hunters. He enjoyed camaraderie, but the tone didn't seem to carry the respect toward their beta and each other Jimmy thought was required of a pack to work together well. How likely is it we'll be on a different path when they head here? Thur asked. I can't do anything once the sensors aren't working, the male said. Does it matter? The other beta asked. We'll be closer to the target and they aren't going to be expecting it. She makes a good point, the Special Ops beta said. Anything towards the target is an improvement. Agreed, Thur said. Get ready to move. Grisnir, make sure they can't leave that room. They fell on the Earthers before they had time to react and dispatched them before they could respond. A call for help had gone out, but they were on the move already. The next fight proved harder due to the increased people and them being on alert for an attack. By the time the fight was done, they had a death, 3 incapacitated hunter, and 2 with injuries grave enough another fight would be deadly. They split the remaining hunters into 2 groups. Third, Trolls and Grisnir were the ones with Jeremy's pack. The one from Jeremy's pack who continued with him, while Skeram Yatirin stayed behind with the others to watch over the injured. With the smaller group, the Hunter, Yularin Rogrotref Carifter's short-range scanner, they avoided all but the fight as they reached the blacked out section. Fortunately, that group was also low in numbers, letting them win without serious injuries. So they are 1, 2, 3, 4 with Jeremy, 5. So at this point, I've got 5 of them there. To the Hunter, okay, the Yarik is there, so that's 6. Hunter Yarika de Remy Ashte Reptar overrode the lock, and they entered a medical bay with pods after pods containing people who seemed to be sleeping. To every species other than Earthers that Jeremy knew of or represented, each had it attached to their head. No one's moving in this. No one's moving in this room or the next. The ones on each side. Until Yolarimal Rogrotaf Karifter said, but more like these. How many in total? In total, within my range, 63. Just about every species is represented. Earthers? Jeremy asked. Nope, none of them. What are you thinking? Thor asked. Shows that this is something directed at the Federation, so I'm wondering why I was the target of those pirates at the dock. And, okay, let's see. Okay, I don't go back to the pods, so I am going to make my alterations here. People who seem to be speaking. Sleeping but. Displays. We're in suspending animation. Every species that he knew of is represented. So, no one's moving. Maybe they just saw an opportunity, one of the hunters asked. Would Earthers think of selling someone who looks like them? If there's money in there, Earthers will do anything. Unter Yerika Dirimi Ush Diriptar said. What? That's rather specific knowledge to have on a species we only have Jeremy as a reference, Krishna said. You watch enough Earther ballads and you pick up stuff. How can you stand them? I tried and nothing happens from nearly all of it. I just put one while I code. It's a couple of hours of something in my periphery I don't have to entirely focus on, except for the interesting parts. Jimmy chuckled. Movies as background noise. Not something I'd ever think of doing with them. His humor died as he walked among the unconscious. Unconscious. Well, unconscious. I don't know if unconscious works. He found a screen with readings on it. Okay. Okay. That's what I missed. You know what? Actually, I don't need that because this was just to establish. Um, Zimmer died as he walked among the unconscious people. That's enough. Why would they collect people from the Federation? Someone asked. Data collection is the only thing I can think of, another answered. I will have to name people when I do the second draft. I remember being tired and not wanting to look up names. Do you think the thing attached to their heads acts as their brains? Actually, you know what? There we go. Do you think the thing attached to their head, their heads acts as their brains? That's fiction. No. Thor said the Earthers have that kind of tech. They used it on Jer. This? This wasn't. It wasn't like this, Jer said. They put me in a chair, bulky thing over my head. I don't know how they made me see what I saw or programmed the fear and hate. That's kind of the components under. Oh, okay. Yeah. This is this. Yeah, this is. The skin of the components under Yerik Derimi Arshteriptar said indicate they use a form of electromagnetic broadcast to insert the information, but we haven't been able to recreate most of the components used, so we. Okay. I thought the Federation had forbidden access to that information, Thirst said. Okay. I need to make a quick change. Um, because yeah, this is, you know, this is not something. Hey, convinced. Bu- 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 bu. Takes me back here. I just need to add something. Pointed out. Okay. Because I wanted as much information as possible to keep Hunter Jeremy Bradshaw safe. I wasn't a hunter then, he pointed out. He pointed out, and it's gonna be, and questioned what she said. Recreating technology required more than a peek at reports. You are one of us, one of the crew, one of our people. We keep you safe, and to do that, we need to get whatever we will get whatever we need. Do what we have to. And it's not just you because of who your heart is. We will go this far for any one of our people. You're simply the first to find himself in something this odd. The few times I've had to hack Federation. Um okay, that's another part. Um the few times I've had to do Federation stations. A few times before I've had to do work on Federation Station was part of getting blackmailers to stop targeting one of the civilians on the ship. Thur was looking at him, but shook his head before Jeremy could ask what that was about. Let's proceed. Jeremy? And Arthur asked, standing in the open doorway. Jeremy stared. The incongruity of seeing that male here, realizing who he was take longer than it should have. Omar? And that concludes chapter 35 of The Technician's Fight. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is up on Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day. Feels weird. It feels odd doing this in the afternoon, I guess. If So Furry does not get back online soon, I'm gonna have to make a decision about all these chapters. September 9th. Oh, that's what happened. I forgot to upload a bunch of chapters. Okay, I'm gonna have to do that. Well, see if I have the time this afternoon. Maybe not. Alright. Chapter's done. Okay. I will start another chapter. By confirming, microphone is on, turning off desktop audio. I will confirm I am on the correct screen. I have the correct image up. I am starting the recording, and I'll see you all on the other side. Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you're looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 36 of The Technician's Fight. The Earther before him was thinner than he remembered him, Then he remembered, and this is actually going to be Jeremy. Then Jeremy remembered and seemed tired, but he smiled. I knew this would work. I knew that if I provided the right bait, you and your cats wouldn't be able to stay away. Omar Sawan looked around Jeremy. I had given instruction to be sure you came alone, though. The snort let Jeremy cover some of his confusion behind anger. Like I'd ever be around Earthers again without people to look after me. I'd look out for you, Omar Sawan said, sounding surprised. Jeremy rolled his eyes and wished he could do ear code so he could ensure the others didn't intervene. So long as Omar Sawan was talkative, he might be able to figure out what was going on. What happened to you, Omar Sawan? What do you mean? Jimmy motioned around them, but that didn't seem to help. Kidnapping and torturing Federation civilian? Well, he replied, sounding offended. Did you think anyone would let me continue looking for you if all I told them was that I needed to bring you back? I had to give them a whole lot more after you and your cats destroyed all that equipment. Do you have any idea how millions of dollars in research you two ruined? Oh, okay. Okay, he is going singular because... Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay, so this was not me making a mistake. I give a whole lot more after you and your cat destroyed all that equipment. Do you have any idea how many millions of dollars in research you two ruined? If you mean when my heart and my friends rescued me from your torture? No, I don't. You made sure I was utterly out of it. Where are the merchants? What merchants? The one you had kidnapped to lure me here? Oh, the cats. They're being prepared for the next batch of experiments. But don't worry, the machine works perfectly fine on us already. I made sure the focus was on working out the bugs in it before inviting you over. This time, you won't feel a thing. What experiment? He asked, instead of addressing the real threat. The Earther seemed to have trouble with the question for a few seconds. Oh, well, the experiment to have the machine work on them, of course. If we're going to cure everyone, we need to make sure it works without fault. Cure everyone of what? The sickness, of course. Do you realize that every species out there has it? They all think that what you have is somehow natural? He shuddered. Once you're cured, you can help me with them too. Are you fucking insane? You think I'm going to willingly put myself in that machine again? Let you take everything I care about from me? Jeremy, don't call me that. You lost that right when you betrayed our friendship, if there ever was one. I am your friend, the Earther replied, confused. I've always been your friend. I'm the only one who's ever cared about you, Don't you fucking say my name. Do you think I would have done all this if I wasn't the best friend you could have? All this is for you and just for you. Someone moved, someone from the special op packs. Don't, the Earther warned. If you all stay away, or I'm giving the order to have all these people killed. All these innocent civilians killed. Stay back, Jeremy said. Let me deal with them. The Earther smiled like Jeremy had agreed to go out with him. And the realization what kind of man would do something so horrible even in the... and he realized what kind of man would do something so horrible. Even in the comedies they watched as a group, people doing a horrible thing in the name of love was popular. Although, like now, it usually turned out to be in the name of obsession. How did he reconcile them? Those feelings he thought he had for Jeremy that ran contrary to the belief a man couldn't love another man. Had he really convinced himself best friend was the extent of these feelings? Still, he needed more information if they were to rescue everyone here. I'm not saying I'm agreeing to this, but just to be clear, I go with you and you release everyone here to my friends? I can't do that. So all that talk about this being just for and it, so all that talk about of this just being an excuse so you could get me back is what? Bullshit? No, I never do that to you. I care too much, but it's not like I can get them out of these pods and send them on their way. Why not? The Earther sighs. Do you have any how complex the mind is? Any mind? We were lucky that the machines seem to have been designed to work on our minds, and it took decades to get reliable results, let alone specific ones we needed. It's ludicrous the number of soldiers the military turned into insane killing machine in their quest for a perfectly controlled soldiers. He kept the fear out of his voice through pure willpower. What did you do to these people? I told you, we're trying to cure them, but we aren't there yet. So their minds aren't, well, I wouldn't want them moving around. But don't worry, once we've perfected the process, I can undo the damage and they'll be better than you. They'll be cured. And you want to put me through that thing? I told you, we perfected it, and it will make it will even make you forget all the anger the cats have directed at me. We will be best friends again. You'll see. We are going to have the best time together. Fuck you, Omar. Come on, Jeremy. No need to be crude and suggest something so unnatural. Jeremy laughed. I don't know if I need to feel sorry for you or horrified that you have deluded yourself so much that you don't realize you think you're in love with me. I love you like a brother, like the best friend I remember you being. Jimmy read the tension on the Earther's face, the way his fists were clenched. So that's how? You've convinced someone would destroy. You've con. Convinced someone would destroy other people's mind for a brother. You're convinced someone would destroy other people's mind for a brother, a best friend. You, Dr. Omar Sawan, are sick. Please, Jeremy, come back. I promise that I'll always be at your side. You'll never have to worry about being alone. I wouldn't want to be with you if you were the last fucking person left in the universe. He punched the male hard enough that he landed on the floor and didn't get up. Someone needs to go over the station's record, he said in his calm. We need evidence this was sanctioned by the Earther government. Something on this scale is going to keep them locked in their territory for good. You're forgetting your rank, Hunter. The Special Ops Beta replied. But I'm sending, actually, not people, it's hunters. Hunters to pull everything from the servers, everything the servers contain. A look at Thur confirmed he would hear about this once the hunt was over, and he was okay with it. We have civilians to rescue, Isbeta said, and Jimmy walked over the unconscious Earther to head further into the territory, into the aura chamber that this place was, with the at his back. The two guards looking after the scientific staff were the only troubled the tired hunters encountered, but were subdued without casualty. And no, that's a but. But were subdued without casualty. The staff didn't offer resistance, and the 18 Kelsarians they'd come to rescue were whole but sedated. Jer, I need you to get one of those things disconnected, Thur instructed, indicating one of the sleeker chair and helmet. If that's what was used on the people in the pods, we need to study it. Instead of going to one of the machines, Jeremy headed for the scientist. Which one was used on the others? If they'd need to make alteration to get it to affect non-Earther mind, they wouldn't have been willing to put an Earther in it. Then, when no one talked, he stepped closer and unsheathed his claws. I'm not having a good day. How about you don't make yourself someone caught in the crossfire? Any of them except 7 and 8, a woman asked. Are they all the same stage of modification? She shook her head. That meant they'd want all of them, if only to work out the progress, but which one is the closest to the results you're looking for? Number 5. Start with that one. Then he and the others could disconnect the rest and bring them back to the Bane. It wasn't like moving all those pods would be quick. If I don't need to quickly. He found the tools and set to work. Once done, he needed someone to carry the helmet while he carried the hardware that let it do its horrible work. If not for the people studying them could save, he'd destroy all. He'd destroy everything without hesitation. 8 of the 18 merchants were conscious by the time he was done, and they needed to help with the rest when Thur gave the order to move out. The medics were out of medication to wake them, and they weren't touching other meds. Okay. I need to make some alterations here. Um, all right. By the time he was done, by the time he was done, 8 of the 18 were conscious. Only 8 of the 18 were conscious. Scientists. Da, 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 Okay. Who's there? Uh, Return to shuttle. All right. So by the time he was done, only 8 of the 18 merchants were unconscious. The scientists had run out of the Kessler-tested stimulant, and the hunters wouldn't let them use Earther rated ones. He handed the helmet to a hunter when Thur gave. Okay, yeah, there's no comma here. When Thur gave the order to return to the shuttle, while he carried the hardware that made it work, that let it work, that made it work. Um, Jeremy cursed when Omar wasn't where he'd fallen. I should have tied him up, he complained. He could have told us who paid for all of this. Eureka will get that information from the server. They won't. They won't resist her. Still want him to pay for this. All these people. He wouldn't have been able to proclaim his innocence. With all these people, he wouldn't have been able to proclaim his innocence, even if he'd even try. Sure, there will be consequence for us shutting this down, Thur said. You will pay. It would be more satisfying if it was at my hand. Isbeta gave him a look Jeremy couldn't interpret, then shook his head. We have the scientists. They can pay for this before the Federation. After they help us understand this thing, someone said. Beta Zorfiel Frasgor Milan, we are ready to head to the shuttle with the rescued and prisoners of our own. What's the status of on your path? The Earthers aren't going by. Okay. There we go. That's way clearer. Must have been tired when I wrote this. The Earthers have stopped following the sensor feed we're feeding them, she replied, so we can't keep them out of your way. But they can't talk among each other, so they can't talk among each other, don't have sense to follow, and we know where they all are, so we can guide you away from most of them. Understood. We're moving to rejoin the injured, then we'll head to the shuttle. Tell the pilot to wait for us. We aren't done here. Carrying the mind-breaking equipment, having barely conscious civilians to help be mobile, injured. Injured hunters in similar situation, and prisoner who might attempt to escape if given the chance. Returning to the docks was slow and tedious, but fortunately with few encounters and no further injuries on their side. The secured Earthers glared as the group walked by their hatch on the way to the shuttle, and Jeremy broke rank to hurry to the cockpit. I repeat, that's a Tahornian Arakmas dreadnought coming at you, Bane. The engineering is somewhere under the ship. Check the records. The design is documented. This is pilot Tommy Remortoral. You have a... We're here. Jimmy said, it's going to be packed. We have a lot of people, and they are uneven. There are even more that. His friend was out of the seat. We can't leave in this. Tom, we can't stay here. We're going to have Earthers who will realize this is the only place we can come to. Even more reason to not be here. Stop what you're doing, he told the hunters who were helping the civilians into seats. Pilot, we need. Really, Beta? You're going to argue orders on my shuttle? Jeremy was surprised when that got through to close his muzzle. Here's the situation, Tom said. Out there is the kind of battle ballads you don't even. The battle ballads don't even have to try to make epic. More ship than can be counted against a lone one. We go in there in this shuttle and we're all dead. I thought you were the best pilot on the Bane, a hunter said. I am, but this is an unarmed shuttle, and those are ships with way too many weapons for anyone to want to mess with. The moment we undock, we become a target. What are our options then? The other Beta asked. Tom smiled. We get ourselves a different ship. Of course, I believe there's one just waiting for us, a bunch of docks spinwise. That's an Earther ship, Thor said. And someone meddled to give me an Earther shuttle on which to learn. Shuttles aren't ships, a hunter said. They're close enough. And hunters like to make everything the same. We standardize for efficiency, Jeremy said in exasperation when the hunters looked at him. But that means Tom is mostly right. What he learned on the shuttle should carry over. But a shuttle is fine with just a pilot, the other Beta said. Ships aren't. They need crews. Jeremy smiled. You already have an engineer, and you have a bunch of Earthers with experience flying that ship tied at its hatch. Can we be sure they aren't going to make... Can we be sure that I'm going to make sure? Okay. Can we be sure they aren't going to signal the other ships, telling them who we are? Their side. If there's one thing you can count on the Hollands, regardless of the species, is that there is their desire to survive. If any of those ships find out who's on board, they will destroy it and them along with it. Tom rubbed his hand. Good. With that settled, I have a new ship to get friendly with. And with it being so much larger, the other Beta said, doesn't that give us the space to put all those pods in? Instead of leaving them here and hope we can come back for them? We split forces, Thur said. My pack... Actually, no. My pack is with the pilot. We'll make sure the Earthers know where they stand. We'll also see to the injured, rescued, and prisoners. Beta, Grenlock, Torel, Rosharak, you and the rest of your pack bring the pods. And pods. Okay, we need speed since we don't know how long we have before we can't stay here anymore. Beta Zorfiel Fras Gormilan status still working. If we knew where the servers were, it'd be faster to pull them out and do the work once we're back on the Bane. Alteration to the hunt. Thur gave the rundown of the changes. Going through the inventory now, a new voice said. Found industrial transport hover plates and establishing a route to get them on the way to the blacked out section. You'll be on your own from where for how to fit them once you get there, but at worst you won't have to move them as far. Got it, the Beta said. Receive the route and in motion. Jer, go see to the reactor, make sure they haven't sabotaged it, as Beta instructed, and he hurried to the other ship. And that concludes chapter 36 of The Technician's Fight. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available on Ream Story. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day. Ouch. Of course. Alrighty. Alright, confirming microphone is on. Turning off desktop audio. Confirming I'm on the correct screen. I have the correct image up. I am starting the recording, and I'll see you all on the other side. Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 37 of The Technician's Fight. Energy spike at the station, sensor stated. On screen, Gurgran instructed, and the image of the dreadnought with the occasional flash of explosion making it to the outer hall was replaced with the small form of the station. Weapons? Negative. Too low output for weapon coming online. Its engines. The image shifted and the station doubled in size. Not enough to let him make out ships at dock, but there was the burst of light. Signature matches that of our shuttles, he exclaimed, and the mood on the bridge rose. He kept his relief under control. The hunt would be soon over. He and Jerwood, another spike. There's a second ship leaving the station. Who? He demanded, knowing full well the information would be limited. They had no information about any of the ships that had been docked. Signature matches that of the prey. What are they doing? The most likely strategy, this is going to be capitalized, would be for them to attempt to stop his people now that they had rescued the captive, unable to determine at this time. The flash of energy against the station. Then, when Sensor didn't say anything, Gurgran glanced in that direction, and the shocked expression on the male's face froze his heart. Our shuttle was all the male managed. No, he refused to accept it. Confirm, Hunter. Focus. Confirm what happened. Checking, the male said, snapping back to attention. Gods be kind. Opposition status, he ordered so he couldn't think of the possibilities. Down to 18 ships, Alpha. A Hunter at a backup sensor board answered, focusing on evading our weapons. Hull status. Overall at 83%, maintenance returned, but energy absorption plating down to 46. Alpha, sensor said, and the strain in their voice warned him of what was coming. Confirming the explosion was our shuttle. Fired upon? He searched the screen for someone to make pay. Did the prey fire on them? Negative. Scan of the prey didn't show any weapons. No indication it was fired on, but what, Hunter? He snapped. It's chaos. Short of going over the scan second by second, it's impossible to tell how it happened. He wanted to scream. He wanted to hunt the gods and demand explanations. All he had was the battle. Weapons. Target the prey. Even if they aren't the ones who had, even if they weren't the one who had destroyed his heart, they were the reason he had to send him on the station. They were why he was dead. It's the priority target. I want it destroyed. Changing priorities, Alpha, came the response, marking prey for death. All others only to be kept from hitting us. One screen, focus on prey. He was going to watch those Earthers die. A screen formed in the upper right. He couldn't make out the Earther ship, but he'd see the explosion when it was hit. Until then, he had a battle to supervise. Engineering, update. Power is steady in purple. The weapons on plasma pulse are being allocated the bulk, kinetic the rest. The backup will need to be looked after with how your pilot pushed it, but it'll give your heart something to do. He almost keened. He fought the tears. He was an Alpha. He would grieve once those responsible had paid. A glance at the screen showed him plasma becoming dots in the distance, and a shadow illuminated as they passed it by. That it had traveled enough distance to be that visible served as a reminder of the kind of speed that ship was capable of. It wouldn't save them. they were making the mistake of coming in their direction, weapons would get a lock they wouldn't be able to evade well before they hit the Bane. He ignored the flashing from that ship and focused on the battle. The only flash he was interested in was its final one. He gave weapons instruction to target ships he judged would soon be a threat. He demanded updates from repair, maintenance, life support, and he forcefully did not look at that screen, a reminder of what they had taken from him. Alpha! Someone yelled, and the look the pilot gave him was desperation. That's Bane code! The computer can't resolve it. Com said before he chastised a civilian for using the wrong rank and making Gargaron further responsible. That's because whoever is at those lights doesn't have good control of them. But it's Bane code, coming in hot. Gargaron looked from the pilot to Com. Bane code was what the pilots called the communication system they'd built that didn't rely on usual methods. Comms had them because they needed to be able to communicate under all circumstances. Even special ops hunters were known to use it because it was nearly impossible to detect unless those looking to intercept were in direct path. Confirm, 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 Comms yelled. Bane code coming in hot, all rescued. Extra passengers, stop shooting. Tag us friendly, he ordered. Weapon change order. Protect friendly at all costs. Pilot, get us to them, now. Altering course, Captain. Priorities altered, Alpha. He would seek forgiveness from those he had wronged once he confirmed he held his heart. He shouldn't be there. There was still work to be done. A few of the stragglers to destroy, a battle to look over in case of surprise attack, but he hadn't been able to wait. As soon as he'd been told the ship had attached to the Bane, he'd transferred command to the bridge beta and had hurried to the hangar. Now he waited. Through light code, they'd confirm his heart was alive, but it wasn't designed for detailed communication. You know what? I'm going to keep it. I'm going to avoid confusion and call it the same thing. The hatch unlocked with loud protest. He couldn't remember the last time it had been used. The only reason to latch a ship to that hatch was if there were suspicions it could be a trap. And as much as he didn't want to entertain the thought, that remained a possibility. While every hunter received training to withstand interrogation, no one was unbreakable, and Jer hadn't received that training yet. Jer wouldn't know Bane code, but Tom would, and he was a civilian, so he never received the training. The hatch opened, and his hunters exited. The three betas, followed by their teams, three of them on a stretcher, sheets over them, carried by the others. Carried by those. Those who weren't too injured. The hunt had sent three of his hunters to the forest. Don't punish them for my insolence. He wanted to run to him, hold him, smell him, prove to himself his heart was alive. He wanted to abandon his rank and be with Jer. Jer's beta noticed him and brought them all to a stop. Silence fell in the hangar. We returned from the hunt, the beta announced, with success but losses. You hunted well, Gargaron responded. The gods will honor those who fell. So long as his transgression wasn't so deep, they'd punished him by making his hunters suffer. Your hunt is over. Your family await you to help you remember. Now is time to live. He was the first one to reach them. To take his heart in his arms, he buried his nose in Jer's neck and breathed him in. Once he was satisfied, he pulled Tom to them. Welcome home, he told them. It's good to be back, his heart said. We have spoils and prisoners. Let the others deal with that, Jer. I'm not your alpha right now. I'm just Graal. I thought I'd lost you when the shuttle exploded. I almost killed you when I ordered the Bane to destroy your ship. You were on it. Tom snorted. You really have that little faith in me? I'm not... He swallowed. I'm not thinking as well as I should right now, Tom. I'm sorry for my lack of faith. Tom rubbed muzzle with him. You're forgiven. Tom, Jer said, I hope you don't mind if I keep Growl to myself for tonight. You can reassure him you're still alive tomorrow. You two take your time. There are others who will want to make sure I survive this. Thank you. Growl told his friend. Growl held on to his heart and cried. He cried for what almost happened, for what he almost did, and from utter relief at having him in his bed, the two of them utterly exhausted, caused. He stepped onto the room and couldn't proceed. The banners felt accusatory. He blamed all of them. The gods expected to be blamed, but they expected to receive blame for things that fell within their territory. He'd been indiscriminate. He let his grief potentially make things worse. There were rituals of atonement he could perform, more than he could count, he expected, but he couldn't imagine any of them being enough for this transgression. So he opted for this. I seek forgiveness, but I don't expect it. My grief isn't an excuse. You have stood by my people, your children, for as long as Thurixamian brought us into being, without ever giving us reason to doubt you, and I did. I am sorry. I have already made promises to some of you, and I will see them through. Whatever you need of me to right this wrong, on my namesakes, I will perform it. Not able to think of anything to add, he said the only thing left He said the only thing left before leaving. I remember you. Status, he said, stepping onto the bridge. He wanted to stay in bed with Jer, make sure he couldn't lose him, but he was an alpha, and he had duties. 2 ships escaped within Earther territory, the Beta said. The station is unpowered, something the Pax saw to before they left. We have Earther pirates, station personnel, and scientists in the cells. We had to put them 3 to a cell. The Pax had time to round up I need to account for something. We had to put them 3 to a cell. The Pax had the time to round up everyone while the ship was made ready to leave, and anyone who surrendered was brought back. We also have 53 stasis pod with Federation citizen in unknown conditions and medical. A machine like the one used on your heart was used on them, but from what the scientists said, none of us is enough like the Earthers for it to work properly. Their ultimate goal was altering it until they could cure all of them. The machines the Pax brought back are with the builders. How many have they reported bringing back? The Beta smiled. What report? No one's had time to fill out anything among this chaos. Then they'd be able to ensure the Bane kept 1 for their studies. Why was the shuttle exploded determined? Why the shuttle exploded determined? Self-destruct. Self-destruction. The pilot and betas didn't know what the battlefield would be like once they reached the Bane, so erred on the side of not leaving something behind the Earthers could use to lay blame at your feet. He nodded. That would be expensive to replace, but have we confirmed the station sits within unclaimed territories? Yes, Alpha. And it's already been filed and claimed as battle salvage. I thought no one had time to file anything with how chaotic things were. The Beta shrugged. The crew was kept busy during it, but you know us Betas, easily bored. Once the battle was done, what was one to do? What was the one on duty going to do? Just stand here and yawn? She found stuff to do. You already owned the station by the time I came on duty. He wouldn't be able to sell it on the market. Not that he expected to find a buyer for it. Unless it had been designed to be moved, it was a proposition outside all except governments to make happen. He expected the leadership would want it, and he'd let them have it at a reasonable price. one that let him replace the shuttle and see to the repairs without having to return to Kelser. The investigation pack are already going over the data that was brought back from the station. The biggest hurdle they see is breaking the encryption. It's in a language they don't have a familiarity with, using a thought process different from ours. They say they'll get the information, they just ask for patience. They have it. You hadn't even known they'd be data retrieved. He had definitely not lived up to his rank. He hoped this place he took his place on the center of the bridge. You are relieved, and he set about working his shift. He shouldn't have made this promise. That's not what I asked for. Why do you not escape? What happened? You used to escape when I did the Control I. There we go. He shouldn't have made this promise. The two of them were going to make sure he paid for it. He stepped into the hold to it much louder than usual, and by the sounds, the people were actually working. But the quartermaster made promises of his own to help in their survival. Z, a female at the counter, yelled, "Captain's here!" The response was too muffled by distance for Gagran to make out. "What is going on here?" he asked the female when he reached the counter. "We're putting all the stuff that had to be moved in place back. We're putting all the stuff that had to be moved back in place." "Aren't there machines for that?" The quartermaster had used to move all that in the first place?" She shrugged. "You'll have to ask Z about that. He just asked if I wanted to help, and," she grinned, "it's Z. Of course I said yes." The quartermaster arrived and rubbed muzzle with her. By her shiver, Gagran had an idea what the unseen hand did. "I can use your help cataloging. Why don't you go do that? I'll be there once the captain's done with me." Another rubbing of muzzle. She left. The quartermaster licked his fingers, then pushed himself onto the to sit on the counter. Gagran wasn't surprised the male was nude. "Is anyone actually working?" "Yes, and quite hard. And now if I have to make sure they take breaks." Until someone lodged a complaint, this wasn't any of his business, and he had business to conduct. Zenial tel halon. The male sabro rose to his ear, and Gagran waited for the comment. When they didn't come, he continued, "I'd like you to arrange a meeting with your uncle. The Bane is going to be at Groshirota Restis in 3 months." The quartermaster nodded. "I have to know. You never used my name since rescuing me unless circumstance forced your hand. What is it this time?" "I made a promise." "To whom?" Gagran glared. The quartermaster grinned. "What is your namesake going to think of you making a promise to mine?" "I think I've given him worse to deal with at the moment." That made the other male pause. "I'm not going to ask. What's the promise you made?" Would he gain anything from not answering? Would that go against his promise? "To attempt to get to know you. To attempt to build a better relationship between us." The male's eyes went wide. "Why? Why would you do that?" he whined. "What have I ever done to you that you'd want to make my life so difficult?" He realized something while Gagran was still trying to understand what that was about. "Don't answer that. The list is probably too long, but really? I don't understand how my promise to your namesake is making your life difficult." "You promised him you'd try to get over how you feel about me so we can be friends. Just what kind of male am I going to come across as if, in return, I go about making your life difficult? What's my namesake going to think of me? Do you have any idea how fun it was to make you squirm and look for things I could do that would force you to put me in a cell? Where am I going to get my fun now?" Gagran looked at the back of the hold, still unsure what was happening. "Different kind of fun," the male replied dismissively. "Definitely fun in its own right, but come on, Captain. Do you have any idea how much I got off on antagonizing you? Too much. No such thing." And he realized that his promise hadn't changed his life. I hadn't changed just his life. What happens now, then? I have no idea. I mean, I'm going to have to be nice to you in return. He turned his head and made a gagging sound. Although, you could... Oh, this is going to be impossible. You can't let me off my promise. Gargan attempted. I expect your namesake would respect that. Tempting. Really tempting. But I can be an adult about this. Gargan couldn't stop the snort. And treat you like a friend of rank deserves to be treated. Don't you take all your friends to bed? The male shrugged. And maybe that'll happen with you too. He nearly voiced his protest, but that hadn't been an assertion. It was just a question of time. And the male's behavior left him with only one possible action. When I'm not on shift, he said, and did his best not to sound reluctant, you may address me as Gralgaran El Ravenir. It will be my honor, Captain. And since he hadn't been given a way out again, he could do the only one thing. I'll let you get back to work, Quartermaster. He headed back, overhearing the male whisper, just you wait until Jer hears about this. Oh, no fucking way. Jer was cooking. By the amount of food on the table, he was trying to not think about things. Jer, can I talk with you about something? His heart put the steaming pan on the cooktop and faced him. If it's about my session with the psychologist, that's tomorrow. That's good. Okay. You know what? I can add something. If it's about medical, looked me over, gave me shots, and to go home. If it's about my session with the psychologist, it's tomorrow. That way, that lets me address that it happened. That's good, but this is something else. And he told him about his promise to Zinila Haran and what he told the quartermaster. He left the male's reaction out of his recounting. That was something the male deserved to tell in person. Jer hugged him. Thank you. He hugged him back. You are worth it, and so much more. And that concludes chapter 37 of The Technician's Fight. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available on Ream Story. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support Wait, what? No. Yeah, links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day. Poof! Thrown a little bit there. Yeah, I can see myself learning to work with, well, I'll be using it. It works. It's just, there's some level of overextension that I don't care for. But again, I think if I get a programmable keyboard, I will be able to work around that. And just have to use the bar, which is actually, the roll bar itself is actually quite convenient. Like, the bar, I like. That one, and the scroll wheel is not bad. It's the buttons. The buttons are, I'm too used to having the buttons above, the control, or it's just too far. I also don't like that some of the programs that I'm told are supposed to be there aren't there. Like, I'm not getting a double click with the scroll. I'm just getting a regular click. Oh, wait a minute. Is it double clicking now? Okay, it's double clicking now. Let's see if this is going. Well, actually, I'll check it after that. Because I tested it before and it wasn't giving me a double click. Da, 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 13. The reason that the buttons are too far is that they require to twist my hand off the keyboard to use them properly. And that is not how I want this to work. No, it did not. Yeah, it doesn't double click. Either that or it's something that Patreon locked out. They've been just about every time they make changes, something feels like it breaks in how they do things, in how things happened or worked before. Okay, that is done. Okay, that is done. That is done. Okay. The one downside to the bar is because it's got limited moving distance. They have compensated that with when I hit the button, I press and it moves it. It keeps moving it left to right. The thing is, I lose control of the speed at which that happens. Which, with a ball, you don't have to worry about. So, eh. Prisoners. Yeah, I think that covers everything. right, I forgot a little detail. Wait, no, I'm not. This is not Harker. This is not Harker. This is Tyrannus. And I don't think I have an icon for that. Yeah, I was supposed to, something I was supposed to do at some point that I forgot. I was supposed to see about setting up chapter length. Okay, so that's 2000. Let's see where the next chapters. And that's the thing. I'm going to use scene breaks. I just need to figure out where they are. Okay, so it's going to be here. This is going to be the first scene break. Okay. You know what? Let's double check. Do I have a Tyrannus? No, I don't. Actually, you know what? Since I'm here, all right. Eric watched the skyline as he walked towards the city along Old Tyrannus Way. He waited for it, anticipated it, and it still took his breath away when he finally made out the lightnings. He stopped, looked at where he stood, at the buildings still in the distance, but he knew that this was where being home that this was what being home felt like. Being able to look up and make out anything of the Grand Lightning Hotel. This was where Tyrannus began. He knew it in his bones, even if there were no visual indication of it. He set out again, and half an hour later he encountered the sign welcoming all to Tyrannus, the city of soaring dreams. The Grand Lightning was pictured behind the words, as were two other buildings he didn't know, but could see as part of the skyline. Two more contender for the Lightning's place as the defining Tyrannus landmark. The bottom of the sign stated that the population of Tyrannus was 12 million people. He continued walking, and more cars joined the road from ever-increasing numbers of side roads. Past him. And more cars passed him. Let's spell this properly. From the ever-increasing number of side roads. One of the roads had a sign indicating to take it to reach the expressway. A large number of cars came from that road. Buildings began filling the fields, houses, garage, convenience store. One had a large sign on its face, Great Oaks, the place to live. The number of pedestrians increased too, but the road wasn't busy. At the edge of the city, Eric felt that the people took things a little slower, and he stopped to talk for a moment before continuing. Some greeted Eric with a smile as their path crossed. He greeted them back, the gesture feeling awkward. No one in the swamp greeted another in such ways unless it was to exchange insult or threaten each other. He much preferred this. He found his own steps slowing. He smiled at the men and women he passed, and they smiled back. More than once, he came across a woman who he had to pause and admire. The most stunning had been an alligator with just enough heft to her to make holding her worthwhile. She happened to glance his way as he looked, and her step lightened. She sashayed for his enjoyment, and he did enjoy. When she disappeared among the other pedestrians, he went back to his walk, but he cherished that memory. It had been some time since he'd been the cause of a woman walking like that. When he came to the intersection of Main Street and Tyrannus Road, Old Way had changed name at some point when he hadn't been looking, he stopped. If he continued along Tyrannus Road, he'd make it to a bridge which would take him over the river, or he'd continue past a few other bridges, and walk in front of the Grand Lightning. Only he found he wasn't ready to leave Great Oaks, or even this neighborhood of it. He decided to head west on Main Street and away from the river and see what was that way. After only a couple of blocks, the street became lined with storefront, most with stands by the door displaying produce from the local farms and various wares. Many looked homemade. He bought a small basket of strawberries with a few stalks of rhubarb and sat at the terrace to enjoy them with a cup of spiced tea and to watch the women walk by. Some wore dresses for the warmer spring weather, but many wore pants. It didn't shock him. The women in the army didn't have time for dresses, but it was different from when he'd enlisted. He also thought that overall the colors were much brighter. He did enjoy how the pants highlighted the curves of the legs and hips. A gray rabbit wore a pair that was too tight on her that was so tight on her a gray rabbit wore a pair that was so tight on her that for a moment he thought she'd had her fur painted instead. It was captivating in an almost lewd way, but a moment later a plump giraffe walked by in a pink sundress with a strap riding low on her shoulder and the sides open so he caught glimpses of her midriff. And he forgot about the rabbit. Another detail he noticed, couldn't miss really, was that they all carried devices similar to the one Walter had, and which he'd seen almost everywhere during his travel back. He hadn't tried to figure out what they were before, but now, by eavesdropping on the people around him, he learned they were phones. They looked nothing like the phones he was familiar with, and while many used them to talk, and while many talked on them, others looked at them. The woman seated next to him was tapping hers and nodding at what she saw. He let the prickling loose and was immediately dazzled by the complexity of the device. The schematic had so much that until he expanded it, it was only tightly packed lines. And then it felt like an infinite number of small components. Even though he wasn't trying to push himself beyond rationality, he could feel this pulling him toward madness. He shut his eyes and pushed the lines away. They fought him. The complexity wanted him to explore it, regardless of the consequences. But he finally managed to push everything away, and the prickling went back to ticking. Returned to ticking at the back of his mind, reminding him of everything he was capable, as if that knowledge would ever let him unleash it fully. When he opened his eyes, she was looking at him. He smiled at her. Headache. Then went back to drinking his tea and snack. Among the near madness, he had got something of the design. Our phone could do more than transmit voice. It could transmit information and process it too. There had been talk of someone building something that could do that when he was in the army, but the machine had been the size of a room, and it had used phone lines to communicate with its double. Things certainly had improved while he was away. He finished his food, then went back to following Main Street west. A few blocks later, he came across Covenant Avenue. If he took it north, the road would take him to Covenant architecture, if the building still stood. It was where the Lady Covenant had designed the majority of the buildings that became landmarks in the city. Only he didn't remember the avenue reaching this far south. He entered the net convenience store to buy a map to find out just how much larger the city had become. He couldn't find them, and the clerk informed him they didn't sell them since they were available online. Eric thanked them, filed the expression as something to work out later, went looking for another store. It took him 5 stores until he found one that had maps on the bottom shelf of a rack, covered in dust and 5 years out of date. During his search, he got to see someone use their phone up close as they gave directions to a friend from it. This explained why paper maps were so rare. If everyone had a phone and they could look at the maps that way. Now that he had his map, he could see that the majority of the changes had been on the outskirts. Great Oaks was a good example. In his youth, it had been a small farming community, a few miles away from what had been considered Tyrannus proper. His mother had taken him to the farmer's market in the fall because she enjoyed the smell, and she'd get some fruits for them to enjoy. She'd get some fruits. And she'd get some fruit for them. His dad never came. He couldn't be bothered getting off the couch when he made it home. What he remembered of most of his mother was the canning. Every fall, she would make the rounds of the markets and then put the season in glass jars. With them, they could enjoy taste of the harvest all winter long. She stopped doing that a few years before he enlisted. The local groceries had begun stocking fresh vegetables all year long from greenhouses and through trade agreements with neighboring countries. His dad had complained throughout that first winter about how nothing tasted the way it should, and his mother had told him directly that if he wanted canned vegetables, the next winter he could do the work himself. All that seemed to be left of those markets were the stalls by the doors of some stores. Studying the map, he could see more places where the city swallowed up towns and turned them into suburb and neighborhoods. There was Valdemir to the northwest, Fulton to the south of that, and Rivflow on the east side of the trench. They were now fully connected to Tyrannus, where they had only been 1 or 2 roads going to the city before. The air cooled and the shadows grew longer, reminding him he needed a place to sleep. He'd slept outside before, but even when he'd had to do it in the army, he didn't like it. He liked having an actual bed to sleep in. Hey, Bakta, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? Since his finances were low, the last job he'd taken was a few weeks before, he headed south on Kavanagh, figuring that the cheaper motels would be on the edge of I don't need the town. On the edge of Great Oaks. Oh wait, okay. It said specifically. On the edge of the town of Great Oaks, now district of Great Oaks. He left the business area behind when he crossed Drury Street to enter a quiet residential one. A few blocks later, Mellow Road marked the start of a lower-income neighborhood, and a few blocks past that, Felicity Street looked to be the demarcation of a fully abandoned area. Windows were boarded up and lawns overgrown, and for sale signs were before every houses, old and damaged signs. Just drop lunch off for your wife. Love listening to me narrating. Technically, it's a read and correct. I usually do them in the morning, but on Tuesday morning. But I had blood work to be done this morning. I read and I fix stuff when I encounter it. Tulip Street transitioned him to a failing commercial street where only one storefront and four had the lights on, but even they had bars on the windows. Wait, what? But even they had bars on the windows. On windows, the one Eric tried. Okay, on windows. So this is a new phrase. The one Eric tried to ask if there was a motel nearby was locked. If he could tell that it was closed, he would not have tried it. So there was that. He found the Blooming Tulip Motel 3 block past Tulip Street at the corner of Gregor. The building inspired as much confidence as the rest of the neighborhood, which was to say very little. But they offered cheap weekly rates, and Eric needed a place to take off his shoes while he figured out his next step. The room was small, with only a bed and small kitchenette. And the clerk had said this as if it was the selling point of the room, it had a heater cooling unit in the window. The bathroom was common to the rooms on this floor, and he had to provide everything. As he ended his shower, he was happy to be human. It was a joy he'd felt often, as it meant his toiletry fit in a small bag and one towel was enough. It had been a common complaint among the furries in the army that there was never enough towels. And with the day's dirt cleaned, he went back to his room, lied down, and was immediately out. What are you up to today, Bacta? Let's come back here. Let's rename this. I will change that. Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. File, image. Uh, how am I supposed to attach a file to this in this new format? Where did you guys put that? More settings. Okay, that is interesting. Maybe there's a hidden section at the bottom? No, there is not. Oh, okay. Not exactly intuitive, but you know what? It's there. And it worked. Okay, cool. Uh, the reason I the reason I know that I'm gonna get scene break is that this is written in vignettes kind of thing. Um, there was I don't know that I set out to write it that way, but there was a um, weekly episodic kind of thing. The question is, how far will they be? So that is You know what? That's 2,000 word. I'm gonna be okay with that. Almost 2,000. Okay. That is going to be a problem. Well, I would like. I mean, this is 7K. So I could, if I can find something in the 2,000 word. You know what? I can break this. Let's see, where does 600 take me? Oh, right. That's going to work. Yes, I did. Okay. Wait, I'm telling you I haven't made one? No, I have not. Is that why I didn't start? Well, you know what? I can make it a... Okay. the point of a search bar that doesn't give me search results? That must be a Patreon thing. What's the point of you giving me that if you're not gonna bleeping take it? Oh, come on. What the hell? I did not write this? Really? Guess I need to at least click that for you to grab it. I could have sworn I'd written this. Oh, duh. It is right here. I knew I'd written this. It is good to be consistent. It is better to remember where you put stuff. Alrighty. With that done, I'm going to call the stream done. And this is the last week of Game of Thrones, so alrighty. Thank you very much, everyone, for dropping by, keeping me company. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be working on Mind Your Step, and in the afternoon, The Technician's Fight. I hope to see you then. If I do not, I hope you have a good week, a good weekend when it arrives, and I will see you when I see you.